Sexual identity terminology has, over time, become an accepted part of our language, a way in which American society expresses who men are and how they relate to the world. These terms can be viewed as a double-edged sword. While on one hand they provide a vocabulary for articulating the spectrum of men's sexual activities, on the other, they have introduced division, stigma, and social control mechanisms that have proven detrimental to men and male identity. Sexual identity terminology as we know it today is a recent development in human history. The terms homosexual and heterosexual, for instance, did not enter the English language until the late 19th century. Their usage was not common until the mid-20th century, during a period marked by societal shifts in the understanding and acceptance of differing sexual activities. While these terminologies emerged ostensibly as tools for self-identification, promoting a better understanding of the spectrum of men's sexual activities, they have also had negative consequences. Rather than exclusively empowering men, these terms have inadvertently fostered division, reducing their collective strength. The divide and conquer effect has seen men increasingly incapable of unified action, mutual support, or even trust. This division of men into distinctive sexual identities has created a polarization that breeds fear and engenders a form of social control. Men, anxious about being associated with stigmatized sexual identity subgroups, often modify their behaviors to avoid being categorized, a reality that fosters a perpetual state of unease and encourages self-policing. In this sense, the concept of toxic masculinity arises, not from inherent male behavior, but as a result of imposed, socially manufactured sexual identities. In other words, by men being coerced into acting against their nature. The dissolution of male-exclusive spaces, resulting from this division, is another result. The fear of stigmatized sexual identities often leads to a withdrawal from spaces where men might otherwise share, learn, and support one another. This dismantling of solidarity spaces has made it harder for men to navigate a world that is increasingly complex and demanding. Younger men, who previously benefited from the mentorship of older men in such spaces, lose a great deal. Expression of affection between men has become rare due to the internalized fear of stigmatization, compromising relationships between men and isolating men in the process. Importantly, the greatest benefactors of these sexual identities are not men themselves. Divisions among men serve to uphold hierarchical power structures which are ultimately most useful to women, while leaving many men feeling estranged and misunderstood. Underlying sexual identity category names are the notions that so-called heterosexual men are useful to women whereas all other groups are not. Men in ostracized subgroups often internalize a lessened sense of self-worth and are reticent to take up more powerful positions within society, limiting their roles to subordinate roles or dropping out completely. Marking men with such terms is of no social benefit to men. In fact, it is only detrimental. The imposition of sexual identities has also tampered with men's internal autonomy. Men are incessantly cautious and calculating, fearing the social implications of their actions and interactions. The constant threat of being associated with stigmatized sexual identity groups makes the social modifications of men's actions possible. Rather than risk being ostracized by being associated with an ostracized subgroup, men begin to police their own behaviors and at times the behaviors of others. In this sense, stigmatized subgroups act as a control mechanism for other men. Deviation from acceptable behaviors and sexual activities becomes more tightly controlled. This perpetual state of caution and self-monitoring not only robs men of the freedom to be their authentic selves but also contributes to high levels of stress, anxiety, weight, and mental health issues. It's important to remember that these sexual identities are a recent historical anomaly. For all of human history, men's identities were shaped by a myriad of factors including their roles within their communities, their skills, and their character. The dominance of sexual identity as the primary form of identification is, therefore, ahistorical and warrants a critical examination. While the advent of sexual identity terminology undoubtedly had its roots in the broadening our understanding of the spectrum of men's sexual activities, it has simultaneously generated division and control, undermining the strength, unity, and autonomy of men. These terms, in their current state of use, should be considered detrimental to men and should be actively rejected, with men taking control of the narrative and instead emphasizing the full, complex nature of the male sexuality as well as our roles within our communities, our skills, and our individual characters.
It's a sin, my darling, how I love you, because I know our love can never be. It's a sin to keep this memory of you when silence proves that you've forgotten me. The dream I built for us has tumbled, each promise broken like my heart. It's a sin, my darling, how I love you, so much in love and yet so far apart. Why pretend that I can live without you, when deep inside I know that it's a sin? When deep inside I know that it's a sin. Sin.
Much obliged you hopped on board for this snazzy trip through American life in the 1940s and 1950s, all captured through nifty vintage photographs. If this flick's got your motor running, don't be a square. Click on that jolly bucket of bolts to subscribe to the channel for more top drawer content just like this.
Thank you.